Not so fun fact, if you're part of the NBA, the league this year is estimated to have lost $695 million. One executive is pretty sure that all teams will lose money next season. And part of that is because Adam Silver, who is the commissioner of the league, has said that about 40% of league revenues come from ticket sales and game day stuff, excess charges or whatever for people attending the game. And you can't have people at the games anymore because coronavirus. So guess what? That means Perkz might not be coming to North America. I'll explain why. On the first episode of Perkz Watch 2020, I talked a lot about how confident I was that Perkz was going to end up in North America, probably on Cloud9. I'm still feeling like odds are he will end up in North America, and likely to Cloud9 if I had to pick any of the different teams that I think he could go to. But I am far less confident I was a couple days ago, and part of that is because of things that I have learned. So let's back up really quickly and take a moment to remember a couple things for people that don't know. There are about 4 teams in the LCS that are pretty closely embedded with the NBA. So those teams are Dignitas, who is connected with the 76ers, CLG, who's connected with Madison Square Garden, they own the Knicks, FlyQuest, the Bucks, and Golden Guardians, Golden State Warriors. I know a lot of people are going to say 100T, but they're a little different because they're not so majority owned, I guess. I don't know, but they're not as dependent on the Cavs. So when you have 40% of the league that is connected to the NBA and bad things start to happen at the NBA, there's going to be repercussions in the LCS. And I'm pretty sure we've already started to see some of them. So ESPN reported yesterday that the number 1 and number 2 bids on Licorice for buyouts, which were Golden Guardians at 1.75 and FlyQuest at 1.5, have fallen through. Now, I've been able to corroborate this with my own sources, and ESPN reported it was because of budget concerns. Now, that is my understanding as well. And so when you start to hear things like, hey, teams are no longer spending what they thought they were going to spend and their budgets are getting hit, it's pretty close to certain that it's because of the NBA stuff. I would feel very, very confident, especially since we're seeing it across multiple teams. And that's just Golden Guardians and FlyQuest. I have yet to hear anything about big spends coming out of CLG or Dignitas. The only thing I've really heard about Dignitas that could be kind of expensive is picking up Sneaky, and I expect his salary to be significant. But my understanding is it's likely that they would pay for that salary with the buyout money that they would get for Johnson. By the way, I'm going to be talking about rumors that I've heard from all these different orgs in another video, which should be going up right around the time that this hits, but be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. So in addition to, again, hearing that the 1.75 and 1.5 numbers have fallen down, I've heard that Licorice's buyout has overall cratered. Nowhere near, like not in the millions anymore, right? So pretty far down there. And what that means is that now Cloud9, who previously was going to be making potentially close to $2 million off of a trade for Licorice, guess what? They could finance that, or they could use that money to help finance the acquisition of Perkz, especially if you're hearing, I don't know, G2 supposedly, as reported by ESPN, wants a $5 million buyout. I'd previously heard 2.5, etc. But like when you start to get some of these big numbers, there's so much money that's involved that, like, again, 2 million for Licorice and maybe some other players, that would have gone a long way to helping to cover the cost of that. Not to mention, by the way, the salary that you need to pay Perkz whenever he does get over here, because if he's coming to North America, you got to assume he's not going to be coming over here for a couple $100,000 a year. So when you no longer have money flowing from the NBA teams to their organizations, who would spend that money to acquire players from Cloud9, who would then spend that money to acquire Perkz from G2, so all this NBA money eventually ends up at G2, it becomes a lot harder for Cloud9 to, I guess, break the bank, or they'd have to go pretty big. That means that I think 100 Thieves and EG will be more competitive. Maybe Cloud9 is in the lead there, if only because I think Jack will have at least some money from a Licorice buyout. By the way, I should also say I haven't heard any rumors around any North American teams chasing Niski. I'm not saying that he isn't going to end up on one of these teams, but because there's no sense of a bidding war for Niski, like I'm not hearing like, oh, 3 teams are interested in him, that also lowers the amount of money that Cloud9 could get if they decided to trade Niski to somebody, which presumably you would be doing if you were acquiring Perkz. So That's a very long way of saying, like, it's crazy how the finances of NBA teams might actually prevent a player from coming over here. I think it just means also that the teams that are in Europe no longer have to contend against this. And it also just means I'd be really shocked to hear that Carlos is actually going to get $5 million in buyout for Perkz. I just don't see it happening. So anyway, that's sort of where I'm at on the Perkz stuff. I'm becoming a little bit more skeptical. I'm very curious, and I think part of the reason I wanted to do this video was also just to sort of demonstrate the fact that, like, this is actually how a lot of this stuff goes. I think fans frequently think that, hey, what happens is one team really wants a player and they bid against other people, and that's what determines who ends up with that player and where that player ends up playing. In reality, these things are oftentimes a domino effect, right? Like, if Niski is no longer, or sorry, if Licorice is no longer with Niski potentially as a package going to one of these teams, you have less money to then spend to get Perkz, and you know, it all just kind of flows together. Again, I'm going to do another video about the other teams. Be sure to subscribe and keep an eye out for that on this channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching my off-season coverage. It's been quite fun sort of chasing all these different rumors, talking about what the league could look up to me, how the league could look up to me, which honestly they should, what the league could look like next year. And I wouldn't be able to do all this stuff if it wasn't for Alienware. Look at this beautiful lineup of Alienware stuff. You can check them out at alienware.com/Travis. There's a link in the video description below. You can use Travis10 off Q4 as your code to save 10%. And there's going to be some awesome Cyber Monday, Black Friday stuff coming out from them soon, I hear. I can't give you the secret yet on what they are, but it'll be a lot less expensive for you than spending on some of these EU imports. Let's put it that way.